Okay, everyone. It's still morning, so good morning. We're ready to get our meeting started. We do have a quorum. I have no opening comments, so let's start with announcing ourselves for the agenda. Ms. Vinicor, please.
Lori Vinicor from the Alliance of Delray Residential Associations.
Radcliffe Brown representing TAC.
Paul Dumars, representing the Finance Committee.
Sherry Brown, representing Budget Advisory Committee.
George L. Moore, representing the Economic Council.
David Porter, representing Construction Oversight and Review Committee.
Leanne Evans, School District Treasurer.
David Dolan, Chief Facilities Management.
Heather Frederick, Chief Financial Officer.
Eddie Rose Glaze, Tri-State Education.
Gordon Longhofer, President, Classroom Teachers Association.
Anna Patricia Morales. I'm with the Office of General Counsel.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Amy Haynes, IT. Vice President of Programs Lead. I would like you to consider how many programs we run. And the operation part of mine, is that most.
It appears we have Amy Haynes is in attendance.
She's a staff person from IT.
Okay, sorry. Chris Pickard.
I think we've got for members attending. Warren Dans is attending virtually. Patrick Franklin is attending virtually. And we also have Mrs. Brill, our school board member, and recently approved chair of the school board is joining us. So congratulations, Mrs. Brill, and thank you for joining us. And we have several staff people joining as well. Dave, if you see any other members chime in, and there's a list, you can interrupt during the meeting if we have any more. But we do have a quorum, so thank you. Thank you all for being here today.
Okay, do we go for the amendment on amend the agenda?
Yeah.
Need to amend the agenda to select a chairman and vice chairman. Okay.
I guess we need a vote on that. Anybody opposed to that? It was not put on the agenda, but we're allowed to amend the agenda for election of officers that was supposed to happen this month. Anyone object to adding that to the agenda?
No.
Okay, then that is accepted. So we will do that at the end of the meeting. All right, minutes from the 8/25/2023 meeting. Anyone have issues with the minutes? Any corrections, additions?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Anyone online object? Okay, thank you. Leanne, it's on to you for the sales tax summary.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for attending. We always appreciate seeing you. And in case I forget to say, I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Typically, we get to the end of the meeting, we're wrapping up, and I always forget, so I'll say it up front. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. So I have the presentation, as we normally do, and included in board docs, as always, are all the backup reports that are used to feed into this presentation. So, okay, Salvatore Manuel, a board member, committee member, has joined the meeting. So that's another committee member. Thank you for joining us. So for this report, this is all as of September 30th. So that information is on the screen. Also attached, I just wanted to go through, we did get the October revenues. So the September 30, I'm going to go through both September and October since it just came in. The projected revenue was just over $1 billion. We've received just over $1 billion. Projection was $844 million. So we're still around 125% of projections. We've received 78% of the receipts to date. We thought we would be about 66%. So the money's certainly coming in faster than projected. I still believe that we will be sunsetting a year early. I was monitoring what happens. The ordinance is written that it could sunset on any year when we reach that threshold on September 1st. I do not believe we'll get there. We need to be at 125% over prior year. Not from projections. So our actual year-over-year projection is growing at about 3 to 4%. So it's just slight growth year over year. So I don't think we're going to sunset in '24. It'll be 2025. Expenses and interest earnings through September 30th were expenditures $658 million. Open purchase orders are $128 million. Interest earnings at $28 million. And the total fees for the line of credit, which is now closed, was $847,000. So just to give you an update on what happened in the last month, the total revenues are now at $1,073,314,606. So we're continuing at 125. We're at 125.55% of collections through the money we received at the end of October.
So you've made the district $28 million in your investment procedures?
Yes, it's actually up to now, net of the fees. The total interest revenue is actually $30 million. Net of the 487 of fees, the net is $29,544,000.
That's a whole brand-new elementary school.
Not quite.
Yeah, used to be.
Used to be.
Yeah, it used to be, 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, we're actually working on our annual investment report right now. The interest earnings for the district for last fiscal year was $71 million.
Wow.
So that's what happens when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates significantly over the course of the year. I'd love to take full credit for that, but it's the Fed and trying to battle inflation. That's a conversation for the Finance Committee, so we'll stop there.
Okay.
This is the summary of the referendum that we provide each month. And it does show the changes. Over the last month is $5.3 million. That's from 3 projects that we'll be talking about. 3 facility renewals, and we have PPMs for those attached. There's also increases for projects that are funded from other sources, and we'll be going through that as well. Cumulative change, amount funded to date, the expenditures. This is September 30th. My apologies, I didn't change those dates, but this is as of September 30th. All the data is as of September 30th. So this is the summary that is the first page of the report that's attached to our presentation today. Are there any questions there? I can pull up the full reports if you'd like to dig into the weeds. And then we'll go right into proposed plan modifications. And Dave, do you want to go through these, or do you want me to go through the first ones? I'll go through these. This first page are ones that we're just moving money up. So, for example, on the first, there's actually 2 where we had damage to the gym floor. At Emerald Cove, there was a flood in the gymnasium, and we need to repair it. We were planning to replace it in a year and a half. We've just moved that work up. So in each of these cases, we're moving money up. We're taking money from the sales tax reserve in this current fiscal year, and then taking money away from the project in FY '25 or '26 and returning it to the reserve at that point. So this is just shifting money around within a project, no real budget changes, just trying to facilitate the work so it can be done as quickly as possible. So there are 10 of those, PPM number 202 through 210. Are there any questions? And I do need you to approve these. We can do them page by page or do them all at once?
I think page by page, that way
Okay.
they're fresh in our mind.
Okay?
Anyone have any objections to these PPMs? Okay, they're accepted.
Okay. Then we get into the increases. So I've grouped them together. The first group are budget increases since the adoption of the capital plan. And the last 3 were changes that happened in the capital plan that I did not catch up during our last meeting. So as I went through and found them, I said, okay, we need to bring those in too. So I'll go through the first ones. PPM 211, and Dave, you can jump in on descriptions. And if there's any questions, he's the one to answer them. I do the money side and he does the project side. So Manatee facility renewal, that is an increase of $1.8 million to address shortfalls with HVAC and LED lighting. Number 212 is for Belglade Elementary. It's a $2 million increase to address shortfalls with EMS controls, HVAC, and exhaust fans. And the third one is Belvedere Elementary Facility Renewal. It's an increase of $1.5 million to address shortfalls in EMS controls, fire alarm, VAV controls, which I'm not sure what that is, PE pavilion roof, and other miscellaneous items. And I'm going to stop there in case Dave wants to add because it's a little Greek. I understand the money side, but as I said, he does the projects.
Yeah, and as we often go over these items, we're basically, we're identifying the areas where we were most in need or most over. So there might be some items that came in under on the budget, and some of that excess money went to pay for some of these that you'll see here, listed here. I know, Mr. Porter, we talked briefly about EMS controls. EMS controls are for controlling the systems within the building, air conditioning. And if they were not included in the original referendum, or they were limited in scope in the original referendum, it just, we're asking for additional money because these are critical components of our buildings that need to be upgraded and improved. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, EMS stands for Energy Management Systems, and I believe the way our district operates is that all of those systems at every school come back to a central location where you don't have to be at the school to know what's happening with the energy systems and the air conditioning, whether the chiller's working, whether it's up to the right temperature. It can all be done from a central monitoring station, which really helps a lot. And also, another definition, VAV stands for Variable Air Volume Controls.
Okay.
When you blow air out of a chiller, it's chilled water and it goes around the building through air handlers like you have in the house. And that's a variable air volume control that pushes more air or less air into rooms as needed for the correct cooling.
And it's often needed when, as you probably know in your home, the end of the duct run often has a little bit less air, and that's because you probably don't have controls in your home system. Whereas in a school with massive HVAC systems, you do have to make sure that you control the air flowing out through the early drops, the early classrooms, so that enough air does get down to the end runs.
So shortfalls.
Best word I would use. The monies that were established in the referendum were projected estimates, and in some cases, as we're seeing there, the money that was afforded in the referendum might not have been quite enough to cover those improvements.
That explains it.
Well, and the referendum budgets were established 8 years ago.
I didn't want to get into that.
Yeah, and construction inflation over the last 5 years has been
Everything went up, so.
15%, 10% per year. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a meeting about a year ago, and I'm happy to bring this back at another meeting. But we went to the board and came up with a plan as to how we were going to deal with cost escalation and set money aside. So we had 4 large construction projects, 4 large facility renewal projects that we took from sales tax, and we funded them with a borrowing to free up about $80 million in reserves to help us address cost overruns. And we also had a couple other projects where scopes changed. A good example would be Roosevelt, the project going on at Roosevelt High School. We moved that to a borrowing. The scope is so much more than what we originally thought when the referendum list was comprised, so that was moved. So we've moved a couple of things from the sales tax funding into other funding. They're still on the referendum list, we're still monitoring them, but it put more money back into the reserve so we could deal with the cost overruns. Okay, and then the next 2, these are also increases. These 2 are funded rather than sales tax reserve. These are coming from increased borrowing. We'll be borrowing money in another week and a half, about a week, to pay for these projects specifically, as well as West Riviera. So Winbrook, the construction project, went to the board on Wednesday of this week, and we needed to add another $5.5 million into that project. And Pine Grove needs another $1 million in order to complete the work. And Dave, I don't know if you want to add anything to those?
No. Again, the Winbrook, when it was established, Winbrook just went to the board, so we knew our final number just recently. That's why we have a very specific amount. The $1 million for Pine Grove the contract was approved months ago, and there are shortfalls in the overall project budget for some of the contracts, and additional funds were needed for that.
Luckily, I hadn't done the borrowing yet.
Hadn't been
So
done.
I was able to borrow a little bit more money for that project, or will be doing that in another week. So that's the budget increases there since the adoption of the capital plan. Then we have three more, and I apologize, I don't know how I missed them, but for the Scripps area, elementary 04A, they've gone through and updated these project budgets based on the current estimates, so there were some increases to these three projects. The West Area Elementary 15E, and we've got Arden in parentheses, the land was donated from the Arden development, it's in that development, it's where we're building at. That one, we added some more money to it. I think we approved the architect last night. It's also moved that project up a year because we want to get that open. The students, the student growth rate in that area is much higher than projected, and we need to get that school built earlier. And then finally, there is another high school in the capital plan, and they increased that budget. I am certain we'll come back to you and increase that budget again.
In future.
With the cost escalation the way it is, I'm comparing that to what we're seeing in the market statewide, and even the money we budgeted now with these increases would not be enough to build that school today. But that's what's in the capital plan. We did an increase. And I realized I didn't put the dollar amounts here. So I want to pull up the PPMs, each one of these that we've talked about, and I'm going to scroll down to those last two. So you can see that these last three. So for each PPM, you do have this in your package. This is the Scripps area 04A. It is a budget increase. It is an increase of $5.1 million. For this one, it brings the budget to $35 million. For the next one should be the West Area 15E that we built in Arden. This is the one that was moved up a year. So it changes the opening date, the timing of the funding, and the budget. And it's an increase of $5.1 million at $35 million. I expect we'll be bringing both of those back at some point. These are the best estimates that we had at the time. And the last one, excuse me, is the high school. And this one is, we've increased it by $25 million at this point to $118 million. So these would be funded from other local funds. These three are not funded directly from the sales tax. Right now, I've got them funded coming out of local property tax revenue. I'm sure that when time comes, we'll be borrowing for them, but that's not forecast in the capital plan just yet.
Where is the high school planned for?
I've got it as Western Communities. I think it's out.
Yeah,
It's,
there's a parcel of land, Joe, I don't know if you have, it's out in your name.
Yeah, the district owns a piece of land that's northwest of Seminole Ridge High School. So it's, I forget the exact course streets are, but it's Seminole Pratt Whitney Road, further north, then head west of that. So it's going to relieve Seminole Pratt, and then there'll probably be a domino effect, because Wellington is one of our most overcrowded schools right now, and Palm Beach Central is another one of our most overcrowded schools as well.
It's going to be quite close to Seminole Ridge.
It's going to be relatively close. Actually, when we bought the property, when we acquired the property for Seminole Ridge, we acquired this other property at the same time. And we're deciding which one of the sites we're going to build on. So it's a couple of miles away from it, so it's some distance, but it's in relatively close proximity. I will say also about that high school, we're probably going to move dollars. I don't know if we have dollars for design earlier than 2027.
not yet. But
Okay, but we're going to need some design money before 2027.
Right.
We probably need about a year and a half to 2 years to design that school.
Yeah, and just for the group, so you know, the capital plan was adopted in September, and within a week, we rolled out the documents to start planning the next year. So the facilities team is already working on our next capital plan, and it's a constantly evolving process of when schools are needed and when do we need to build them. And then the budgets, it is astounding, the cost escalation. And just for reference, I'll give you an idea of what we're dealing with. We just opened Dr. Garcia High School. The total project budget for that school is $105 million. They're building a school very similar to that in Sarasota. They're actually borrowing money the week after me, so I'm talking with them regularly. Their project budget for that same school is over $200 million right now. So in a matter of just a couple of years, the prices have gone up. Orange Schools is working at one, I believe that one's over 3 now.
It was over 250 the last I'd heard.
Yeah, so the construction costs are escalating. I've never seen prices go up as much as they have recently.
Yeah, part of the reason why is it Martin County, was it? Or The one that's,
Sarasota?
no, the one that's closest to one of those 200, the first one you mentioned?
That's Sarasota.
One of those schools is because they're trying to get the school, a high school built within a year. So that's part of the escalation. We won't try to do that.
Okay, good.
That's way too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, I guess you want a motion on this page.
Yes, please.
Anyone have objections, comments, questions? Okay, not seeing anyone online or in the room, then this page is acceptable.
Okay. So the next slide, Dave and I are going to tag team. You can start off, and I'll wrap it up.
Sure. As I often remind the committee, while we meet every 3 months, there might be an occasion where our projects that are heading towards construction, and I might need additional funds, I don't want to delay a project by another 2 months in order to have this body meet, recommend approval, and then take it to the board. So oftentimes what we've been doing lately has been, I've been offering up projects that we can see in the very near future that we anticipate are going to need additional funds. We just don't exactly have the exact number, but we will within the next month or so, month and a half. And I want to at least let the committee know in advance so that when you see it next month as more of a kind of a ratification, you are made aware that these facility, for example, these 2 facility renewals, Boynton Beach High School needing approximately $2.5 million. And I identified in the parentheses there the most of the big items that are contributing to the additional monies needed. Same thing with Lantana, an additional $3.5 million project, primarily roof and EMS controls. As I said, EMS not necessarily there. And roof costs have skyrocketed. And as well, we have a lot more to fix. Every day goes by and the roofs get more and more challenged. So that's those 2. And then the third bullet that I have there listed is just what Ms. Evans just referred to earlier about we will constantly look at projects that we need to accelerate for the need of the school. So we might come back to you and ask for additional funds, or not additional, for advancing funds that are in out years.
This page is not really
Just for
modification,
reference.
so this is information.
Yeah.
This is what's coming in the future,
Right.
to give you a heads up. The last section here on funding options, I wanted to bring that up to you. There were some late additions to the capital plan this year. There's a Phase 2 for Roosevelt and a Phase 2 for Delray Full Service. Those were initially funded with sales tax. Because we have the Phase 1s in sales tax, it makes sense. But the more information we receive on it, we're going to recommend that these projects be funded from a borrowing in late 2024, early 2025, depending on when the project budgets are ready. So while it's temporarily funded with sales tax, we're anticipating moving that. We hope to talk to the board about it on December 6th. And we'd move it out of sales tax into a borrowing. So I've not done a PPM to add these projects in. I'm hesitant to add them into the capital plan, into the ISOC project list. First of all, it's expanding the scope. And secondly, it also means this committee will continue to meet until all the projects are done. So when we're adding new projects in, that means you're automatically staying longer to review this same list of projects. This happened with the sales tax in 2007. We got to the end and there was extra money, and we put a project back in. And so there was another 2 years of meetings about one school. It was really hard to get a quorum. It was challenging. So I'm trying to avoid that problem again. And it really is a better way to fund these projects, is to fund them from borrowing. So we'll be recommending that to the school board in December. So I did not do a PPM for these, even though they're temporarily in sales tax. I'm hoping to move them out in December. So it's just there temporarily. The projects are still in the project list. I know for anybody in the public that's listening, they may be nervous that the projects won't happen. They're still going to happen. I'm just going to fund them through a borrowing whenever we have the final budget, and I can go out and borrow for it. So any questions on that?
Not on that. I had a question. Previously, you had brought us, I'll call it the $190 million extra, as to where we stand on all of these overages pulling from that
I actually looked that up last night. I need to probably put it on the slides. I actually have it written here. So the total, looking at the three, it's going to be Manatee, Belglade, and Belvedere. Those three. Belglade was higher than the estimate we had, so was Belvedere. Manatee was less. Overall, those three items were about 700,000 more than we projected.
Oh.
So I sent a note over, that's not a good trend. We need to get these things back under. We've awarded 16 projects and have 141 still to go. So 10.9% of the projects have been awarded using 7% of the budget. So the other projects we've had so far, we've only had one other project that came over that our updated projection for cost escalation. So we're still in the green instead of the red. We're still doing it right. And I'm going to continue to bother him to say, keep it under that, or have some come in under and some coming over. But we are keeping this information and tracking with every project to see how we're doing. And I can add this summary into the report from now on. I'm tracking it. It's easy for me to add in, and we'll add it as a summary slide going forward.
Just for the reference, yeah, she notified me last night. I'm like, the first three, and you're going to admonish us. All right, make sure it gets back under. We know that. We recognize that we're focusing on getting those projects under. I think Mr. Franklin had his hand raised.
Yes,
as well.
Leanne, what's the budget for Roosevelt High School right now and Delray Full Service Center?
For that new project, for part two, Roosevelt is at 30 million and Delray Full Service is at 20, and that's for phase two. Phase one, I can get that. That's in the project budget report.
20.
And this is small. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I have trouble reading it. Let's see. Okay, Delray Full Service, the current budget there is 15.5 million, that's for phase one. And Roosevelt's phase one is 22.2 million.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think for future reports, at least I would like to see where you had given us that 190 million that you and AECom had worked out would be where they thought our
Right.
inflation numbers would come from. Just to look at that like the checkbook as to how much of the checkbook we need to spend.
Yeah. This report that you see is a massive spreadsheet. And over in the far right, I have the amount by school of how much we thought it was going to be, and it's automatically calculating the update and doing the percentages. So when I prepare this report, it's automatically giving me that.
Okay.
It's very easy to add a summary into the presentation, so you'll see it going forward.
Good. Any other questions for Leanne on any of this information? Okay, seeing none.
Okay, so Dave, you get to talk a little bit about projects and what they look like.
All right. Well, this is the fun stuff. Again, every month, every quarter we go through these. We do this these first groupings of photos so that everybody sees the types of things that are touching our students and our teachers' lives. You say the picture on the left, okay, you can do it. The air conditioning units, nobody really notices them, but it's obviously quite critical to make sure that they're running. Restrooms, we're improving the restrooms, making them code compliant, as well as making them nicer, more reasonable. Flooring at Western Pines. This is a standard across the district. Classroom lighting, LED lighting, Lake Park. That's next photo is Lake Worth High School. All the improvements between the flooring, some of the improvements inside the room. Last photo there, Limestone Creek. Again, not very pretty, but can't live without the roof being dried in. So some of these other photos, concrete walks, roof repairs. Oftentimes we try to manage the funds and make sure that we repair the things that need to be repaired, assuming we can value their lifespan so that we don't have to immediately go back in 2 years and replace. So That's a balancing act on a lot of our projects, hence why some of those ads, those increased budgets were for replacing roofs. Air handlers. All right, the fun part, fire alarms. That's basically, we're upgrading fire alarms in our schools, make sure we have new head-end units. And somebody had asked me recently, what does one look like? Well, there's your control panel that folks are checking in on.
Well, at least you took the picture instead of it saying system is dysfunctional.
Had to make sure it did not say systems irregular. Sidewalks, gutters and downspouts. Okay, moving off of facility renewals, I'm now on to our next two elementary schools well under construction, Grove Park and Malaluca. Grove Park, as you can see, these photos are a couple of weeks old, but they're getting towards completion. Our anticipated opening for both schools will be over the winter break. So, like I said, don't notice that there is quite a bit more paving having been done at the school, as these photos are a little bit older. This is Malaluca, also well on its way towards completion in over the winter break. And again, both of these schools involved renovating one or two buildings that were existing and then constructing new building. This particular one at Grove Park is part of our prototype, the kind of school we did at Blue Lake Elementary, same kind of footprint. And on Malaluca, we left two newer buildings and renovated them. And as you'll notice from this photo, I bet you can't figure out which ones are which, and that's the whole point of this. And as we don't have a video for the Arden project, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of this new elementary school, West Acreage Area Elementary. We have hired the architect. We are employing that reuse design, that same Blue Lake Elementary design for a 970 student school. We anticipate, we're on a very fast track. We just hired the architect 2 nights ago, and we are moving on having final construction documents and GMP ready in April of this coming year. That's 5+ months away, with the expectation of opening in August of 2025. So we're excited about that.
There is a new video. It's not quite ready yet. There's going to be a sales tax update, so we were hoping to have that today. But I'll send, once it's available, I'll be happy to send a note out to you all. It's going to be like an overall of recent work, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So we'll get that out to you.
I have a question. Can you give the location of that?
Sorry, of the Arden site?
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the Arden community.
Yeah, is it in the Gapo?
It's in the front parcel, right off of Southern Boulevard. There's a plot of land that is dedicated for both a county park and a school.
Part of Arden?
Yeah, it's part of Arden. It's
In the
inside the
Gapo.
boundaries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions about construction for Dave? Okay, moving on. Guess we're down to election of officers.
We are. Our current chair, Mr. Porter, has been term limited. The committee last year asked, we can go to the board and ask for a waiver of an extension of the term limits, and I've done that with the board. It was approved last Wednesday. So the committee can elect anyone as chair, including Mr. Porter, if you'd like him to continue. So I'd like to accept nominations for the chair of ISOC for the next year.
I'll nominate David Porter for chair.
Any other nominations? Anyone? Okay.
Okay. You willing to serve another year?
Yes, I will.
Congratulations, and thank you very much for your continuance support of
All
the
right.
sales tax.
I will nominate Mr. Elmore as vice chair.
I'll second the nomination.
Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, the regime will continue. Okay, anything by anyone, or we will adjourn.
I did want to
Yes.
mention, oh, go ahead.
Yes, I have just one issue with this meeting dates. November 9th, 2024 is a Saturday.
I'm going to update them. I was going to say, I just listed these two here. I'm going back to adjust the dates, and we'll be sending out calendar items for them. I'm going to do something a little different, just different this year. People go in and they accept them right away. And that's wonderful. But 6 months from now, I'm trying to make sure we have a quorum, and I'm looking at the calendar, and some of the people I know are out of town. So what I'm going to do going forward, I'll set the meeting up I'll set them all up without the meeting link, video link, which I always do that. Just 2 weeks prior to the meeting, I'm going to cancel it and add a new invite and have you accept it then, and that way I know that what's on the calendar item is accurate, and I don't have to call people asking if they're, I made phone calls yesterday just to make sure people were really attending, because I'd found some people that accepted but weren't going to be here. So 2 weeks prior, I'll send a reminder out of the meeting and replace the meeting invites, but I will send them out for the entire year this afternoon, and they won't be on a Saturday, I promise.
Okay, anything else by anyone? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
It's on a Saturday. It's gonna be